Morning, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
You actually made it.
I did.
Steve Dulcich is not going to be on this particular episode, and so we invited Dave Chappelle, Dirthead Dave, who you know from the Motor Trend show Dirt Every Day and also from Dirthead Shed on YouTube.
Yep.
And I needed his expertise because the original Roadkill muscle truck sits like a truck.
This thing is such a rad truck, and it's an iconic piece of your fleet, but it kind of sits a little weird, and the rear suspension leaves a lot to be desired.
It's a hack job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been following along with this truck for years. I saw when you first took it to the sand dunes, and I was like, that thing is super cool. And I noticed you had done airbags on it, then you took airbags off of it. It's got a step notch, and I was like, gosh, this thing's sort of hodgepodgey.
It's total hodgepodgey.
But it's one of the coolest trucks, and it's got the platform to build whatever you want off of. So we're gonna chop it up. We're gonna throw coilovers on the back, hopefully build some sort of custom four-link. I ordered like a smorgasbord of parts, so we should be able to make something cool out of the back. And then at the last-ditch effort, he's ordering up coilovers so we can sort of sort out this front suspension.
Yeah, we're gonna begin that, but first I actually have to wrench on a little bit because last time I saw the muscle truck was on an episode of Roadkill Garage where Dulcich and I installed 2 Holly Sniper EFI units on top of my supercharger, and I had to steal the fuel pressure regulator out of this, so I'm gonna fix that problem, and then we're gonna hit the road, but I'm not gonna do it alone because the fabrication master has brought his own Mustang 2. You gotta see this.
Fab Master? That's a stretch.
I did say that.
David, you were always telling me how much you liked Mustang 2s.
Right, I always was. This thing is so terrible, it's flawless.
I love it.
He drove this thing 2,200 miles in the last week.
Yeah, it's so rad. It's still got the crummy 2.34 cylinder. I did throw a Holley 2-barrel on it, which isn't tuned properly, but it gets down the road fine. It keeps up in the slow lane.
And it's only cool because you completely fabricated it with nothing but elbow grease. That's what I think's great about it.
It's
super
fun.
cheap fun.
I was not expecting to get to pair this up against the muscle truck by any means.
Yeah.
But I'm down to see what it'll do. I don't care. I think it'll
You
be
drove
fun.
it here, so I just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I think our plan is going to be to road trip this thing and find a parking lot and just beat on our cars and have a good time. And I want to find out before and after if we're going to make the muscle truck worse or not. We're at Santa Maria Airport in California, and they gave us a little patch of land here to tear it up.
We laid out a bunch of cones. We're gonna try and see if this thing will slalom course, do a big swoopy drift around the back 40, and then slalom course back, right?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go out and just sort of feel it out, get used to it. I think I can do the big drift on the big end if I practice. I don't think I'll do it the first time.
All right. That thing is super rowdy. I don't know that I've ever driven anything with that much horsepower. He's out here like gonna rip it around like it's nothing.
Okay, I'm just gonna take it easy the first time here.
That truck scares the crap out of me.
Okay.
Apparently we need to put the cones where they're not gonna get plowed over.
Wow, this is gonna be pretty fast. Question is, how will it handle?
That is a race car right there, boy. That was awesome.
So it's overpowered, undertired, underbraked, and underskilled. Okay, one more. It's getting dark, and I want Dave to drive. You gonna time?
Yeah, I'm gonna time it.
Okay.
Ready? Oh yeah, he's really getting after it.
See, now this is where the front brakes don't work. There we go.
Oh dang, he's getting after it.
Okay. Brakes are smoking hard. That's the brakes smoking.
Yeah, they're all mad at you.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's one of the problems with autocross. You really need brakes that won't do that. Why don't you give it a shot? We're working on the original Roadkill muscle truck, and Dave, I think there's a big risk of putting a mustache on the Mona Lisa here. That's my concern.
I know, you've been worried about it all week. He's like, don't mess up my truck. I can't mess this thing up.
Well, and that's the thing. I've been reflecting on what we did yesterday, and I think you nailed it with the fact that the stance has been wrong on this thing for years. It's got too much gap in the front wheels, the tires are too small, and I think the thing that has made this thing good is that it's got a really tall rear tire, and right now it sits level, and what we want to do is a taller tire to fill the wheel well, and then get the thing down and give it just a little bit of a rake. Don't you think that's like the priority?
Yeah, no, I mean, we aren't gonna make huge changes here. We gotta get the front suspension like an inch and a half lower, bigger tires, and then level it back out with the rear suspension. And you already notched it, so there's room for days to do whatever we need.
And so we're gonna do all of that without trying to mess up the overall ride quality. And the thing I really reflected on last night is the handling thing. I don't care as much about that as I do about the street drivability.
Yeah.
And in driving it on the road last night, I realized the alignment is whack. It actually is a little twitchy. And when you go around highway turn, you turn, and then it sort of takes a set. It's almost like it's tipping over on the front end like it doesn't have enough caster.
There's definitely room for improvement, and hopefully, like, it's just improvement. We're not going backwards at all.
And we get to do it all with that construction truck beeping in our ear all day long.
Yeah, no sweat.
Yeah. You said also what I didn't know, which is that this thing crabs like a puppy dog down the highway, which I didn't even know.
I was following him in the Mustang, and it was like, if you're right behind his driver's tires, you can see a whole tread of the front tire. And then you go over to the other side, and you can't see the front tire at all.
And I realized the bed could be on crooked, but there's a ton of tire clearance here and not that much there. So you want to start by kind of stringing the thing?
Pull the bed off, and then we'll pull a tape measure out and figure out what's going on with this thing.
Okay, so first step, bed off. With the bed off, we can get a look at my prior mangling from 15 years ago. Here's sort of the basics of it. I put a big step notch in it, my very first welding job ever.
That's not bad. It's in there. It's obviously working.
It's got airbag mounts that were never used. Oh, wow, my shock cross member is bent if you look at that.
Yeah.
And the shocks are way too far tilted inboard. It's kind of ridiculous.
This is like old school rock crawler style. Like everybody used to tilt the shocks in because they thought they could get more
articulation. Exactly. And they're air shocks, which is bad. The leaf springs are original, but I pulled a bunch of springs out of it to help drop it. And then it's got Caltrax bars on it, which are actually a drag racing traction device. You want to see the jump?
Yeah, let's see how it does. So
you can see
here the drive shaft has rubbed that cross member a bunch of times, which isn't good. So my job is I want to 4-link it, which I don't know if I want a triangulated 4-link or if I want to do all the bars forward and then a track bar.
Okay, I'll kill all the zip ties and everything, and then what do you want to remove first, shocks?
Yeah, we'll get shocks off, and then I'll get the torch and start getting rid of brackets. Everything's a competition, Dave.
I know, come
on.
How'd you know? I didn't know you knew that. Ah, you won.
This is gonna be fun.
And basura.
It's not often that I'm cutting bag mounts off. This bar definitely came out of an old car or something. It has that like rust and cat pee smell. Six and a 16th. So that's more like
it's off.
5/16.
It's off.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We just measured every which way to try and figure out if the rear end is square and centered side to side. It isn't. It's about 5/16 out of whack. Did we decide it's this way?
It's longer on this side.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then it's only about a 1/16 different this way, which is nothing to worry about.
I think the next step is going to be put it on jack stands, and then we'll pull wheels. And I'll have you stand on the back, put a little weight on it, and we'll at least get our ride height kind of squared away so that we know we're in the ballpark there.
Right, okay.
We're gonna have adjustability. I imagine with this bed really on it, you're probably about 6 1/4. It's at 6 1/2 right there.
Okay.
And you're a little lighter than the bed.
Only a little? What are you trying to say?
Let's get it on jack stands and call that its home for a few days.
One of the things that we were doing while measuring just now is a good Chappelle schooling, which is you want to measure from points on the frame that can't really move. Like I was measuring from a bolt hole, and he reminded me that that could be a bumper bolt that's actually slotted, so it's not consistent side to side. So we were measuring points that are repeatable, like rivets in the frame and factory stamped holes in the frame. That's how you can make sure everything's square. Now we've got it on 4 jack stands plus a wedgie one on the front to make sure that it doesn't teeter at all, and this is like where it's going to be anchored for the duration of the project. The first thing that we're going to do is mark on the ground where the axle center line is so that when we put it back together, the wheels are centered in the wheel well properly because we know they work well now.
All right, cool. There we go.
That will fall apart now. Ready?
Go for it.
I'm bleeding on stuff. Let me go wash up.
First blood. Dave gave first blood on this one.
My skills are about to be put to use. I am going to be allowed to grind all the slag off this thing. Now the demo is over and we're going to install our new suspension. This is mostly going to be a Chappelle, like make it up as we go along, but let me give you the basics. First of all, we're going to convert it to coilovers, meaning the shock with the spring on it that will hold the vehicle up instead of leaf springs. And then when you do that, you have to have a way to locate the rear axle, and we're going to do that with a triangulated 4-link. He knows how to explain that.
The 4-link is pretty rad. We're using these parts from Barnes 4-wheel drive. This is all heavy-duty rock crawler stuff, but it's what I know, and I know it's strong enough for Dave's driving. So you've got the lowers that sort of locate the axle front to back, and then the uppers are triangulated. So those bars are going to be going like from the center of the axle to the frame. Those triangles allow you to throw it into a corner and the axle will stay centered in the chassis. So this thing's gonna be good. We're going to sort of wing it. We're gonna locate things where they fit the best, and we will use our brains to make sure that we don't make it worse than it was.
Well, that's your brain. I mean,
yeah.
You'll see the erector set as we go. It's actually super cool, and I'll sort of explain everything also as we're going. Step 1, new cross member that isn't bent and smashed.
Cool, things are happening.
We're gonna end up taking out this cross member, and so we're gonna tack a piece in here to sort of just hold the frame stable as that comes out. Before we knock this out of here, what we're gonna do is locate the rear axle, making sure that it's good side to side, fore and aft, and then we're actually gonna weld it to the frame. We're gonna put stringers from the frame down to the axle to hold it in the exact position we need. Now we're gonna get rid of this cross member because we have this thing in that's holding the frame from flopping around and the axle's all welded in. Dave's gonna come in here and just torch this thing out of here before we start to pop the rivets, and I'm gonna like manage wires and hoses so that he doesn't catch us on fire. By the way, notice the use of the water bottle with a hole stabbed in the top as a spray bottle.
Kicking butt.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Dude.
All right, that was a little more demo than I anticipated, but I think good first day's work, right?
Solid day.
Yep, tomorrow we build.
Yep, no more taking this thing apart.
Nope.
That was good, man.
Ooh, brewery down the street.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So we got rid of the old Caltrax and leaf springs, and we're gonna 4-link this thing. So I ordered a Barnes 4-wheel drive universal 4-link kit for a rock crawler. This is all like 1/4-inch formed plate, giant enduro joints on it. We've got these lower brackets, which can be designed to either be really high clearance for like a rock crawler application, but on this, we're gonna drop them down and back because it should work better with the lowered truck. And then we're gonna use a leaf spring mount. We'll angle them out so that we end up with a triangulated bar down here. And then this one is pretty trick. This bracket is designed to go on the inside of the frame and work with the triangulated 4-link upper bars. So that one will end up on the inside of the frame there. And it has 3 positions on it so that we can mess with our anti-squat or instant center. These kit parts come kind of easy to ship. You weld them up and put it on your truck, and bam, we got 1/4-inch plate, heavy-duty rock crawler stuff on this muscle truck. Since we have to weld these brackets up on our own, we're gonna tighten the joint in place, and that'll get the tab width where it needs to be. But every time you try and do that and get it right, they end up shrinking up after you weld. So I usually make some shims out of an old soda can, put those in next to the joint, tighten everything up, weld it. Then when you pull it apart, it should still fit just perfectly fine with the joint after you take these things out. Then I usually fill that square in.
Oh,
just
really?
so it doesn't have a bunch of stress risers. Yeah,
Like
kind of like you were doing on the notch.
Corner,
Yeah.
cross, cross, cross.
Yeah, and then those ones I usually round off with a sand.
Yeah,
with
because
sander.
that's gonna look ugly. All right, with Dave's trick on these shims, slides right out and slides right back in. Sweet. We're just sort of mocking up and eyeballing where all of these links are gonna go, and it's like gonna fall together perfectly.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We're just kind of figuring this out, like how far we can triangulate it. This is also gonna have our coilover hanging off the back of it, so I wanna make sure we got clearance to the frame and axle, and then also give ourselves some room for a wider tire if he ends up throwing like a deep backspace slick on it or something. So, it is all coming together though. This bracket's gonna work without modification, that one's gonna work without modification, and even the upper triangulated link is just gonna drop right into the frame rail.
And the ground clearance is gonna be actually better than it was with the leaf springs and Caltrax bars.
Pretty rad. Keep going, go like an inch.
So there's 26 inches.
Yeah, that makes me happier. We're basically making a fixture right now so that we can duplicate this angle from one side to the next. This actually could be kind of cool just to leave it on there, like loft this off and leave it on there.
And make it the triangulation, basically.
Basically have that as a fish plate for the side of the frame.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me.
Let's tack these to the frame.
I think we can.
Go forward with it, just hit there. We're at 25 and a half. That's right in the ballpark.
You think this is our guy?
I think that's it. So we got brackets welded onto the frame and the axle. Now it's time to make the link bars. The lowers are gonna be 25 inches long. So I've got the Enduro joint here. I went ahead and put the jam nut and the weld bung on it. That way I can get a proper measurement for how long I need to cut the tubing. So these are gonna be the lower link bars. You can see here they're using what's called a weld bung. This is a threaded tube insert. It's 1.5 inch outside diameter on that. It's made to fit inside of this 1 3/4 120 wall round tube. It'll get a perimeter weld all the way around here. And then you can see here I also drilled some holes in the tubing, and that's for a plug weld or a rosette weld. Basically, that just makes sure that even if the weld up here fails, this weld bung can't pull out of there. So once that's done, we can put them in the truck and then start figuring out our upper links. It's the name of our new band, the Welding Bungs.
So we're gonna weld this in right here, right?
Yep, that's going there. That fits good. We had to clearance the frame a little bit for the joint so we can run it at its highest position.
Yeah.
And the other end, it's just getting tabs welded right to the axle housing. So let's see kind of where this wants to land. Our link tabs are finally where they need to be. I had a whole bunch of back and forth, like trying to get this one to match that one. We had every tool in the book out. And then check this out. I just made this little cardboard template. I'm gonna go transfer that to 1/8 inch plate, and that will just kind of lock these two tabs in together. Essentially, that's just to help it so when you're slamming it into a corner, it's not really trying to like rip those tabs off the axle. So that should gain us a whole lot of strength and tie this thing all together. It'll look cool, and it'll get us one step closer to cycling the suspension.
All right, first link going in. Wow, mint. That is absurd beef for this truck. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
You knew that?
If we put a bunch of little Pete and Jake's parts on it, you would be like, that is too small.
Yeah.
This is a better option.
It's not breaking.
Not yet, it's not.
That's not going anywhere. This is my last mock-up lower control arm. We're going to install it. And even though it's just a mock-up, you got to do it right. I want to think about a few things here. First of all, you want to put the little grease fittings where you can get them, which on this side is going to be down. The other thing is, remember that there is a left-hand thread and a conventional thread on each one of these so that you can rotate the bar and lengthen it or shorten it. And I always want to put the left-hand thread in the most easily accessible location because it's always a mind twister and I don't want to deal with it like up like this behind me reaching up to the rear end or something. So I'm putting these on the frame side. There's one in. Whoa, like a glove. Wow, I nailed the adjustment on the bench. All right, now we're gonna cut off these braces that have been holding the rear end in place, put a jack under the center of the pumpkin, and we're gonna be able to cycle the suspension, and that'll be it for the night. All right, we're gonna cycle it, see if anything binds or does anything horrible. It's going all the way up.
Yeah, give it some wiggles, check the articulation a little bit.
Like this?
Yeah, that's
wow,
pretty good.
This thing's a rock crawler.
Yeah, gosh, it's cool.
Yeah, it's really good. The OGMT is officially 4-linked, and I think everything's working as expected. We're gonna call it a night. Mañana, I think we're gonna do coil-over brackets, and while Dave's working on that, I need to start tearing into the front end because we've got that airport rented again on Friday. Tomorrow's Thursday.
We can do this.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
We're out of here.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a time.
Okay, cool.
3, 2, 1.
I gotta start slowing down, unfortunately, in first gear. Uncontrollable.
.2.
All right, same.
Good job.
Yep.
You didn't ruin it.
Nope, not ruined. It's a matter of the suspension actually moving instead of
trying to lift the inside tire.
Exactly.
Cool.
That's great.
We have successfully not gotten invited back here, I'm pretty sure.
I think it's a win, Dave.
It's good. Oh my gosh, we're going backwards. That's awesome. It's like so predictable too. That is great.
Yep. What?
A V8 in my car.
Yeah, you might.
This is amazing. No wonder muscle cars are cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
See if it'll get around the cones.
Let's see if it handles.
Tires are warm.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah, we're done.
I got greedy there. I totally got greedy on that one.